Brian, I was reading one of your old posts,
Mhm.
and when we were just talking about it in the green room, kind of, I was trying to think, how do we really set up this conversation? Um, you watched Downton Abbey.
Yeah, yeah,
Everybody did. 100% of you watched Downton Abbey. Your wife made you watch it.
yeah,
And and back in the day, those rich people, they could have a bunch of kids,
yes, they did.
even though they didn't really like their wives. Apparently,
Mhm.
everybody was off doing stuff with other people in the neighborhood. I think it worked both ways. The wives were and the husbands were both playing around,
Mm.
at least if you believe the movies.
Yeah, yeah,
But I think there definitely was, I think, a thing where the rich back in the day, because they had servants and they had boarding schools, they could just pop out kids all the time and they didn't have to think about it because I hate to say it this way, they could just get the brats weren't underfoot.
right. That's right.
So we're now in the situation where maybe we're in the middle ground where we're not rich enough,
Mhm.
but we're too poor to have the kids, but we're not rich enough to send them off to boarding school. Is that, I mean, what were you thinking?
So basically, there's an overall population problem. I've written about that many times before, a few years back,
Right.
and other people noticed it too. Very concerning because
Very
um,
concerned.
if you don't have replacement population, which is basically 2.1
Right.
kids, what does that mean? It's like a mother and a father, two people, have two kids.
Right.
That would mean on average, one daughter, one son.
Mhm.
And so then you're replacing the mom and dad with a daughter and a son.
Right.
2.1 is the number because 5% of them don't have kids.
Right.
Either they don't get to the age of having kids because, the disease, other things, or because of other reasons they don't have kids,
They
right?
become monks.
Whatever,
Yeah.
right? So they don't become kids, right? So 2.1 is a very important thing of
Mhm.
like basically you can even ignore the husband son side of the equation to fertile woman mother has fertile daughter, right? And
Yes.
that's basically the whole calculation of population,
Right.
right? So this has been a problem because 90% of the population of the world is below replacement.
And some of them are way below.
Way below replacement. In Taiwan, only one. So that means a mother has on average, 1,000 mothers have 500 daughters,
Right.
right? And the thing is, that is not just to the end of their lives, 80 years.
Mhm.
It's like they're 20 to 36, and then they don't have the replacement. So then the next generation in 25 years is dropping in half,
Right.
right? So, over the course of 50 years, you go from a million fertile women of childbearing age, 500,000 to 250,000. It drops in a hurry, right?
Right.
So that's a huge, huge problem because then you're thinking to yourself, and if you couldn't convince them to have one son and daughter,
Right.
if you're down to 250,000, you're saying, hey, you ones who are actually can breed, you need to have like eight. You
Yes.
need to get
Yeah.
back,
Right.
right? You need to have eight. I couldn't convince you to have two. Now I'm going to convince you to have eight. So it's a big problem as this thing gets rolling.
Right.
So I think it's happening also it happened in China, even though China's 1/4 of our income.
Right.
They're down at that, 1.2 level. They're having like 8 million kids for the each year for the 1.4 billion people, but they need to have 20 million to replace.
To replace.
So they're dropping 12 million every time, and it just feeds in. It's something that happened, and it will impact broadly, over the next decade. It's kind of like a bunch of stuff is already happened and
Yeah.
it's just
Yeah.
waiting to impact,
So
right?
we have Japan with ghost cities.
Yeah,
We've got Korea, which is
yeah,
shockingly their numbers are so low.
right.
Um,
Point 0.8 in
0.8.
Seoul.
Yeah. Yeah.
It just like at point 0.4, it's just like really crazy fast. It's dropping off. Their government leaders have said this is a huge crisis. We need to do something. Although how I criticize all those countries, Japan, Korea, who say it's a crisis, and then they institute a policy, and then they don't really say, and we have the mechanism to check this in 20 years or something like that. It's like, again, because I have 8 million kids, I need to have 20. I can know year by year, month by month,
Yeah.
am I hitting the numbers I need to hit,
Yeah.
right? If I don't get 1.5 million, 1.6 million kids in a month, I'm under.
Yeah.
And I know exactly how far I'm under. I need to then change policies to make it happen.
Find another way. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And the other thing is that India and Bangladesh, super poor countries,
Yeah.
have fallen below
Right.
replacement.
Right.
And Africa had not fallen below replacement yet, but they're dropping, 5, 4, 3. It's like it's ticking down. It's
Yeah.
obvious it's going to happen to them too.
Right. In fact, it's really only the Muslims that seem to be uh,
Resistant.
staying above.
And the Hasidic Jews, so
Right.
it's
Yes.
more
Christians.
really devout
Yeah.
religious groups
Right.
are resisting.
Yes. Yeah. And now the Christians in the United States are beating the numbers, but it isn't as much as the other groups you're talking about because they're not as fundamentalist.
Right.
Okay, so reasons. Okay, so everybody, the first reason that comes out of their head is economic. Oh, I just
Mhm.
can't afford to have the kids. Just like, excuse me, that never stopped anybody before, and
Right.
there would have been no kids if
Right. Everyone was poorer before.
everybody was poorer,
Right.
way poorer than
Parents, grandparents, all poorer before.
everybody was.
All had the kids.
They were living in shacks.
Yeah.
My wife's family, they were Appalachia.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they had plenty of kids, 4 kids,
Yeah. All the reasons don't make sense because it's like every country. Like the reason you give that may make sense to you in the United States and California or whatever. But then you say, and how does that apply to Bangladesh and India?
Right.
Because they have the same problem.
Yeah. Yeah. So the finances, I mean, again, now I'll take a little different take on that. Okay. So finances, if you are also, um, let's call it selfish, you're all into yourself.
Mhm.
You don't really have any sense of community.
Mhm.
You can get all of your needs met with a game controller, and that's true everywhere. That's true in
Yeah.
India. That's true in Bangladesh. It's true.
So the main things that seem to carry through is one, the birth control capability. So it
Right,
gives people the control to say, I don't want to have kids,
right,
and so I have a chemical means to not have kids.
right,
The birth control, condoms, etc.
right.
You have the mechanism to do it. And
Mhm,
the other thing is the education,
mhm.
you know, women and men getting more educated is a thing. Because if you're saying on average, even though, people could still have some kids in high school or something like that, it's very rare.
Right,
And then now it's saying, I'm not going to have kids until after I graduate. I'm going through a 4-year degree. I'm going to go through MBA. I'm going to do whatever. And then I'll be 30 and I'll have my first kids,
right,
right? So you just shorten your window from 30 to 36 versus from 18 to 36. So then, and also the number of kids. Fine, you have time to have one,
right,
but
right,
now you don't have time to have two or three, right? Because I shortened the window,
right.
right? It just everything has to go perfect now,
Yeah,
and and also the whole like window in which you're doing stuff is less. So, if you're going from 1836, it's possible, like this, grandmothers and other things, they had six
yeah.
kids because they were going from, 18 to 30, and they were, it was like that's their task.
So I have to think that what maybe the main thing has to be social, the societal pressures.
Mhm.
So when I was growing up, probably when you were growing up, even though we were growing up in very different places, when we were growing up, the grandma was, when are you gonna have a kid? When are you gonna have a kid? When are you gonna get married and have a kid?
Right,
That's gone.
right,
There's none of that. Okay.
right.
Now, maybe that's not fair, and maybe we don't want people pressuring people to have children, but that was there. And when you were in high school, the girls were in high school, especially when the girls were in high school, that's what they're thinking about. I'm going to get married and have a kid. This thing when you went to college used to be, you know, um, something in a ring.
The MRS degree or something like that.
Yeah, yeah. Was it?
MRS degree. So becoming
Oh,
Mrs., becoming married.
Mrs. degree, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, the idea was you went to college to find your mate. On the female side, probably also to some extent on the male side, but mostly on the female side. I mean, it was all kind of, this is what you did.
Right.
You went to high school and you got a job and got married, or you went to high school, you went to college, you got married, and you had kids. Now I mean, it's just not even, I don't know that there's what percentage of the population even thinks. Now, my kids
Yeah.
all thought that way. My 4,
Yeah.
all of them were like, yeah, you go to high school, you go to college, you get married, and you have kids.
Right.
But they're Christians and they were raised in that environment. I think most kids do not have that mindset. What do you think?
Yeah, that is a big part of it. And the whole thing of, even if they're not thinking that way, if they're thinking, I must, I'm focused on my career
Mhm.
until I'm 30,
Mhm.
you again, you're changing what's happening during the time when you can most likely have kids, right?
Right.
And then the other thing would be that if you're thinking, I'm going to do that, and there is technology to freeze your eggs,
Right.
and then the quality of eggs is better when you're younger and all that kind of stuff. So if you're saying, I'm going to end up using that,
Mhm.
I'm going to plan ahead. But
Mhm.
the planning ahead problem is people don't save for retirement, people don't save for a house and stuff like that. So being able to save and execute and do something in advance of a 10, 20 years, especially if you're doing it when you're younger, it doesn't happen. And the fact that some people can do it versus we need 90% of the people to do something,
Right. Right.
is something that is different, right? Because I need to have everyone do it. And I need to have the government support it so that they can do it. If they say this matters, then right now the taxation, the rules are all based on I'm giving the rules for the rich 50 and 60-year-olds, so
Mhm.
give them all the money. So I'm taking money from the from the young people, giving it over here, make it even harder for them to have houses. I'm
Right.
doing stuff that helps these guys so they have $1 million homes, and these guys can't get on the ladder. So everything is messed up that way, right? In terms of the societal thing, the government stuff, the business stuff, taxation, it's all not towards this is a priority. I want to have a 6 year supported sabbatical
Mhm.
where we're going to give people um, the equivalent of early retirement with a 6 year program where basically we want them to find their mate and we want them to get married. We want them to get that established, and then we will um, get things set up where they all then work into the system, have careers and all that kind of stuff. But we can say we want to make that a balanced thing. If that was a huge priority, again, it's something that would require upending things. It requires intentionality in a plan.
We also had in various cultures, we had different ways of doing it, but in every culture, because there was an overall desire to fall in love, to even if you fell in love in the in the way of having an arranged marriage. The idea was even if you had an arranged marriage, you were going to fall in love with this person over time, Fiddler on the Roof style. You have you had an entire culture built around it.
Mm.
So we had dances where you touched the girl.
Mm. Yeah,
And you wanted to know how to dance because you wanted to touch the girl, and the
yeah,
girl wanted to be touched.
yeah,
And before that, we joke about dropping the hanky on the board on the boardwalk. There was a systematic way. You went to a dance, you were given away. There was all this systematic way,
the
this
ceremony. Yeah, the ceremony.
ceremony, everything around how you found a person. So the other day, I got a DM from somebody that was 30 years old, said he was well into his $1 million net worth already. He was handsome, athletic, personable,
Yeah,
and he can't find anybody to marry.
yeah.
And I said,
Mhm.
well, try eHarmony if you're a Christian. And he, by the way, he's decided he was going to try that. But we don't have this systematic way. We don't have these cultural approaches, these methodologies for finding somebody.
Yes. So these are all huge problems, and but the urgency with which this must be solved is not well recognized by people because they think, well, the population just go down. We'll hit 8.5 billion. We're at 8.2. We'll hit 8.5, and then population will go down, and then it'll fix itself. No worries. Even though statistically, no country has fallen below replacement by 1.5 to 1.5 or less and come back to replacement.
Ever in history.
Ever in history, other than if you had something for like a major war, a huge disease thing, but then after that force majeure thing has happened, then all those factors you talk about, we must have kids, we must get back,
Right.
kick in, and then the population bounces back. You can kill 100 million people in World War II, and then everyone has kids, baby boom, you bounce back, right? So we're having none of these post whatever baby boom things happening. So those are huge problems. And then the problem of why should people care about it is that Japan, they leading the wave, their population below replacement in the 70s or something like that. And then it really started biting in the 90s. The population, started to peak and stuff like that. And population started to get old.
Yes.
So it's not just you're getting fewer people, is that the ones who are alive are getting older. So your average age goes from like 30 to 50, right? And then that's a problem because if you're 50, you already have a house, you're not spending, and then that means your economy shrinks. And then you're not forming things to demand houses. So their real estate prices drop like in half or a third. The thing of like always invest in real estate because it's always going up.
Right.
That's a phenomenon of increasing demand from a growing population.
Right.
You don't, and then your housing prices go down.
Right.
Right. And that's a whole different economy. And then also their banks got weaker because of that. So when it happens to China, and it will, because it's already, they've already had that thing where their age is going to 40, and then by 2045, 2050, it's going to 50, and their population is dropping by 1 to 2 million. It's going to start accelerating the drop, and their working population dropping. So the lack of kids becoming working adults, that's already baked in for China.
Right.
They're going to lose 200 million people in their workforce, going from like a billion to 800 million. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
Right. Because, you can't go back in time and start generating these kids. Right. So what does that mean for them? They already have a real estate problem because, they have a crisis and manipulation, stuff like that. But the other thing is that the demand on houses is going to be less.
Right.
Right. So the whole ghost city problem and other things, which are more financial thing, is going to get worse. And then 1/3 of their economy is from real estate. So they have, I think, 5 out of the top 20 globally important banks. So when you had Credit Suisse blow up, when you had Silicon Valley Bank blow up, and the crisis, the bank blew up and something like that, if you say, well, I don't care if China has some problem. When China's banks blow up, right, and then they're, owing money, some of our banks owe money to that, and then our banks have problems because of their banks blowing up.
If they sneeze, we get a cold. Yeah.
Right. Then it's kind of like, oh, this Great Depression we're going through, or constantly, 5-10 years of a global recession. I really hate this. Well, it's because of the population problems and that kind of thing. So now do you care? Now do you care that you had,
So anyway, I want to for another couple of minutes, I want to talk about some of the other problems because if you can identify the problem, sometimes you can find the solution. My brother, I think it was 20 years ago, started this little saying that I heard him say several different times, which is in the previous generations, women and men needed each other. So the man needed the woman to get him some kids that could become workers in the future on the farm or whatever it happened to be. He also needed her for sex. The woman needed the man as a protector and as a provider. Those were the basic, that was the
social contract.
Yeah, that was the social contract between a man and a woman. And now, not only do women claim to need a man like a bicycle needs a fish, but it goes further than that. Now women are saying that men are toxic, and they don't want a man. I mean, not only do they not need a man, they don't want a man. And meanwhile, the guys are saying, "Hey, I'm not sure I need you either. I've got my little place in the basement where all my needs are met, and I won't go into the details."
Right. Right. Yeah. So we need to change that dynamic. For where we can convince people to do it, where we can enable that to happen, we do. And again, it's like it doesn't have to be everyone, but we need 80, 90% to shift over. The fact that we lose 10, 20%,
Yeah.
it's like, then they won't be the ones with the generation in the future, right? But we want to have 80, 90% generating a next generation that is replacing the current one.
So far, countries around the world, so now let's switch to some of the possible ways of dealing with it. So countries around the world have tried to force it. They've tried to encourage it with financial incentives. I think you've talked about this before, that the financial incentives will sometimes cause people to have them sooner, but it doesn't mean they have more.
Right. And
Um,
also it's the financial incentives are too small.
the incentive's too small. Yeah, it's not
10K is not enough.
not a,
And again, by did I get the number in the month I needed? Like for China, to go from 700,000 to 1.5 million. If it didn't,
and you got a
the
problem.
incentive wasn't big enough.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
need to go to like 200,000, 500,000, whatever.
So to me, and I've been saying this for a while, and maybe we get some comments below. I've been saying that what you really need is you need the change in the cultural part of your world. So we have, the president has a bully pulpit. We have other leaders who have a bully pulpit. We have this what do you call it, the world of entertainment, where people can sing songs, where people can write movies, where we could go back to making a family without being schmaltzy. It doesn't have to be schmaltzy, but we can make having a family seem like a good thing that has positive benefits. I've been through all of it. I can tell you that, and you're in the middle of it. You're still in the fat middle of it. There's nothing better. There's no other thing that you do on earth. I don't care how much money you make.
So I think generally creating that is, a desirable thing. It's a matter of time frame and getting things moving quicker, right? Because I said the situation is already happening.
Right.
It's like the Titanic is sinking, and you know discussing if we just made a better ship over there and something like that.
Yeah.
Like we're thinking right now we're in the ship,
Yeah.
right? So we need to react faster on that. So two things that are changing the world super fast: social media
Hmm.
and AI,
Hmm.
right? So and the potential that AI could generate super intelligence, and there's a book written about that,
Well,
and that
yeah. Somebody's writing a book. I don't know.
and the super intelligence can also change the world economy,
Right.
where we get the equivalent of the Industrial Revolution, 100 times increase over 180 years,
Right.
into a 20-year time frame where we go up 100 times. If you
Right.
go up 100 times, if things are distributed the same, then we go from um, $10,000 a year income to a million globally. And the million is an important number because if you make $1 million a year, then those people who have that, turns out statistically, are having replacement kids, two and two and a half, right? So going to the Downton Abbey, in theory, if everyone becomes Downton Abbey rich with servants and other stuff like that, then people have the time, inclination to have kids based upon the sample of people who exist like that today,
Right.
right?
Right.
So then we would see. So that would be, we're going to drive toward AI. We want to make the world wealthy. That could happen. The other part in social media is we know we have manipulated people via social media.
Hmm.
We got them to do stuff, and also with cell phones. That was a lot of negative things that have happened with
Right.
that.
Right.
But Elon Musk has said that he wants to use the social media combined with AI to, instead of creating a video game where you just make more money, or the maker of the game makes more money by creating a dopamine
Mm.
reaction in people so that they play the game constantly addicted, and then also um, buy in-game purchases, and then they make all that money. If the purpose becomes that you're playing the game, but then it encourages, rewards you into behaviors that create the family and
Mhm.
create the them desiring to have kids.
Right.
Elon has specifically said he thinks that kind of dopamine hack is possible, right? So then he would act in that direction. So the two, using technology to fix the problems that maybe it has a significant hand in creating, would be kind of
So,
the faster solution.
as much as I loved my children, I've told all of my children as they were having their children, that the number one thing that they needed to ask for when they started having children for their grandparents to give them was those automatic swings. Because there's no better babysitter in the world than that automatic swing when they're when they're in that age.
Mhm.
And so I made sure all my kids always had those. Um, so obviously, I don't care if you love your children, you don't love them 24 hours a day, and you need to do other things. You need to be able to be occupied with your job or with making sure that the house is kept or whatever. So you do need ways to manage those kids. And it would seem like the best babysitter ever will also be a tutor, and all kinds of other things would be Optimus. Um,
Mhm.
and we might only be 4 or 5 years away from where people will be able to afford Optimus as the best ever tutor, best ever babysitter. What do you think?
Yes, I definitely think that part of changing the whole economy would be that kind of a solution, a technical solution with AI and robotics, humanoid robotics, to um, alter the dynamics of how we do things.
And if we have the robots to do the work, and we still can't get the boys and girls to like each other, do we have to go to some kind of a very dystopian future where we're making the babies in labs, or
So I wouldn't say making the babies in the lab, because that has not happened yet. No one has created one baby in the lab. You've created a pregnancy. You've gotten a egg fertilized in a
right,
lab,
right,
and then you implant that into a person, right?
right.
So actually making, and from my website, people always say, well, we can make an artificial womb, but it's like, you haven't done it. And to say that we will scale that up to 1 billion things is like, you're doing it so hard from something you have not had one success in doing, right? So where have we generated over 1 million babies already through technological means? And that is with freezing the eggs,
Mhm.
fertilizing them, and then having surrogates.
Mhm.
So you've seen all those,
Right.
thousands of Hollywood things, and also rich women who
Mhm.
said, "I want to have a kid. I want it to be my genetic material and my husband's genetic material, and then we're gonna have someone else just carry the baby to term."
Right.
Right? So then you can have surrogate mothers,
Mhm.
right? So we have standing armies. We have standing armies where 1 million guys, or 2, 3 million guys in the United States and China, are standing to defend the country against an invader coming in and killing millions of our people.
Right.
You need to have a standing army of surrogate mothers to ensure the birth of your next generation. Otherwise, your population will go down by hundreds of millions. If they said, okay, China's population is going to go from, or Japan's population is going to go from 128 million to 100 million from 2000 to 2050. They say, well, what happened? What war happened to them? They only lost 3 million people in World War II. How did they lose 10 times more, right? It's because of the depopulation thing, right?
And by the way, folks, all of those numbers should have been in billions
Right. Yeah.
instead of millions.
Right. Right. So then China going from 1.4 billion to 1.1, and then for Korea that you mentioned, if things go this way for them till to 2100, they can go from 50 million down to like 10, right? So near complete decimation for their entire population. So like, to say, well, it'd be so crazy to have 1 million women paid to be surrogates and to be like an army delivering babies, where they deliver 2 of their own babies and they deliver 8 of other people's
Right.
babies. It's like, that would be their job.
Yeah.
It would be like service for the country. And then once you've done it, no taxation, you get, government pension from the time that you're, 35, 40 to your entire life because you are a hero to the nation, right? So that kind of thing would be, you know, creating from a military standing army to a surrogate because, like I said, defending 80% of your population over, and also the fact that if you're only down to 10 million people, right, from 50 million for Korea, their debt didn't necessarily go down. So if you have like the United States, $37 trillion in debt, and the population goes from 330 million down to 100 million, right? Then the debt's still there, and now it's triple, quadruple for everyone, or in 10 times, with
All
interest.
right. So let's do a last run here. We're gonna take the utopian future,
Hmm.
which, by the way, both of us have kind of ascribed to, which
Yep.
is, okay, we have AI, we have robots. The robots do all the work.
Yep.
The rest of us own robots, or we own cars that are, used to robotically take people around. It's an ownership society. There's still entertainment and all the things that we've talked about, and which will all be included in the book. So now we have the robots doing all the work, so we really don't need as many people. So if we end up having a much smaller population, no big deal, because and it'll create so much productivity, it'll pay off all that debt. We won't care about that. So we'll just we'll all live like another movie character. I don't know, some guy named Wall-E, you know. So what's wrong with that future? I mean, we'll just we will have a less population. We'll all be able to live on beachfront homes.
Like Elon, and unlike I think Larry Page of Google, who said, Larry Page I think was saying that it's up to us just to bring in the AIs and the robots, and then they take over all civilization. And said, no, I'm a humanist.
Yeah,
I want, and then they said, oh, you want a human-centric future and all that kind of stuff, and it's guilty as charged,
guilty
right?
as
So
charged.
as much as I love and think that technology and AI and super AI is great, I want human in the loop in the abundant thing. That if it's a Star Trek future where we're going all over, the galaxy exploring, that humans are still on the Enterprise, right? That you're still doing stuff there versus only the Star Wars droid army with no Jedi's or anything. I want humans to be there,
Yeah,
right? Even if they're along for the ride, even if they're only planting the flag, I want them to be part of the super great
future.
utopian future.
All right. Well, and of course, Elon would say that if you get that population down to 10 million and you still haven't figured it out, that it'll just go away. That civilizations all that he believes that the number one reason that civilizations have failed has been population decline because of wealth. So,
Mhm.
so that's an interesting idea that as you get wealthy, you don't need the kids. You don't want the kids because they're just kind of in the way, and eventually the population goes to zero. All right, Brian, I think we've done all we're going
Yep.
to do about this today.
Yep.
As always, thanks for coming on and chatting about
Yep.
these things. These are important things, folks. I mean, we are talking about something that is actually existential, not global warming, cooling, whatever the heck that is. No, this is truly existential. This is actually something that could end existence. Brian, again, thank you. And to
Thank
all of
you.
you out there, it's been great talking to you.